ॐ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let us offer our salutations to Lord Krishna, the embodiment of bliss, who came to establish dharma and punish the wicked. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We are studying verse number 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Yoga of Meditation. Sri Krishna has given most significant teachings so that we can go forward in spiritual path. We can definitely go from unreal to real. We can definitely realize the divine. So God can be realized. But then he said that we should certainly follow certain important disciplines so that we can go unobstructed in our spiritual journey. You know, people making the sea voyage, they use Mariners' compass so that the direction is always done properly, north-south direction, north, it always points to north. Then, accordingly, the navigator tries to move his ship. That Mariners' compass is very important to determine which direction the ship is going. And if by chance the ship is going the wrong way, that Mariners' compass will show you and it gives a suggestion to correct it. Same way, we are all moving sea voyage, that is ocean of world, ocean of samsara sagar. In Sanskrit, nice word, samsara sagar. Everyone is moving, continuously moving, but without direction they are moving and moving. And here, what is the Mariners' compass? The teachings of Bhagavad Gita are the Mariners' compass. They give us direction. Look, this way you should go. You are going the wrong path. Follow this way. Undergo this discipline. Change your direction. Fix your goal. Like that. How true it is. So Lord Krishna is literally leading us every step how we should proceed in Bhagavad Gita. So one who follows these teachings, he can definitely cross over this ocean of samsara. Samsara sagam ghoram tattumichchati yojanaha Gita navam samaruhya param yati sukena saha. He can easily cross over this samsara, this terrible ocean of worldliness. If the person sits in the ship of Bhagavad Gita, the Gita will take you across easily. This was the Sanskrit verse tells us. So here, last time we were studying about this verse, Prashantatma Vigatapihi Brahmachari Vrate Stitaha Manassamyamya Machitta Yuddha Asita Matparaha. Everything specific. There is no ambiguity, no confusion, nothing. You have to be like this. Establish yourself properly. So, one must be maintaining tranquility of the mind. One must be fearless. One must follow the vow of celibacy. Because our mind is distracted. And the whole energy, whatever energy we have got, it is scattered and dissipated in all these sensuous pursuits. So, when the energy is scattered like that, how can you do meditation? How can you have any peace of mind? Simply dreaming. So, Shri Krishna here warns you, develop, stabilize your personality. Don't weaken your system by dissipating energy. And you will definitely experience the glory of your true self. Once you get into that realization, you are permanently established in everlasting peace, everlasting bliss. So, that's how Shri Krishna tells here. But in a practical field, we have no control about our senses. Absolutely no control over our mind. Greed, anger, hatred, jealousy, all these mixing one another, making the life of the person miserable. So, unless you tie the ropes which are tightening you, how can you how can you have any free breathing? What are the ties? Ties of desires. Ties of desires. So like the children engage themselves in toys, we are all engaging in these worldly pleasures, worldly pursuits, worldly attainments, everything worldly. We are just playing like children, like toys. So this world is meant not using your life like a toy, but to achieve the supreme goal of life, that is to realize the divine. Realizing true self means realizing the divine. And that is possible only through human life, only being born on this earth planet. Nowhere else. So Shri Krishna is very clear about that point. So what is most important is control. Control. Where there is control, there is dynamic power. So the river is flowing. Beautiful vast river, full of energy. If you construct a dam, bridge, how terrible force it generates, by which you can do many things. It's just like that. Once a person asked Swami Brahmanji, Maharaj, I can't control my mind. Many disturbing, distracting thoughts arise. What shall I do? Will I be able to practice any spiritual disciplines? How can I worship? How can I meditate? Brahmanji replied him, look, pray to the Lord. Practice with regularity. Gradually, the mind will become inclined to worship and meditation. It takes time. It depends upon it depends on the state of your mind. In what state you are at present. Accordingly, it takes time. It is true. In the beginning, the mind will refuse to come under control. There is nothing unnatural about it. Everyone passes through that. But Swamiji says, force it, urge it, entreat it in order to fix it on meditation. So use your intellectual force, conviction, determination to put the mind in meditation. Man's mind is forever restless. It remains distracted for many reasons. So, association with the holy will bring it under control. You must shift the function of the mind from one level to another level. Coming to ashrama, attending prayers, participating in the activities of the ashrama. You are shifting the mind from one environment to totally different environment. All through whole day, from waking up in the morning up to till night, you are in the world. You are in the worldly environment, worldly circumstances, worldly surroundings, worldly situations, worldly associations. So much. But when you come here, the whole thing is different. It gives you a kind of awakening. I should say spiritual awakening. Well, that's how the people feel peace. As soon as they come, they feel that all the disturbed thoughts vanished and they feel a kind of peace which they cannot express. So they feel the difference between the worldly atmosphere and the spiritual atmosphere. So that's why I keep on telling our people who come here, please come more regularly. Don't fix it yourself. Only weekend I should go. Only first weekend or second weekend I should go. Why do you fix like that? Come as many days as possible. Sit in for meditation. Pray to God. Beautiful meditation knowledge. Nobody disturbs you. Even if you want to be disturbed, you will not be disturbed. That's the beauty of this ashram. Come and sit. Think of Sri Ramakrishna. See him. Oh, smiling Sri Ramakrishna. Beautiful smile on Sri Ramakrishna. If you closely watch, most compassionate smiling. Smiling with compassion. Sri Ramakrishna, the greatest power, greatest incarnation after Sri Krishna. He had all the powers with him. All the divine glories, all the divine powers were in him. Once Sri Ramakrishna was in Calcutta and he had sent information that Sri Ramakrishna will be coming to such and such a place, that Narendranath should come and meet him, to Vivekananda. When Sri Ramakrishna went there, he saw everybody, but Narendranath is not there. So Sri Ramakrishna became very restless. In a sense, he is guiding the purest soul, perfect incarnation, stronger than the strongest personality, Swami Vivekananda. And he was literally, every step, minute step, Sri Ramakrishna was guiding him. And he was very anxious to see why Narendranath has not come. And he told somebody, go and bring him here. So they went to his home. His home was nearby. What was the condition? Swami Vivekananda, that is before he became Vivekananda, was Narendranath. Narendranath was lying down on the bed. Why? Severe migraine, we should say, headache, unbearable pain. He could not get up, what to speak of walking. It's a walking distance only to Sri Ramakrishna's place, where Sri Ramakrishna was staying. And these disciples who came there, they told Narendranath, Sri Ramakrishna is waiting for you. He has told us to bring you there. So we will help you to walk. He could not even get up. But they slowly made him stand and made him walk through. On one side, one fellow this side, another fellow that side, holding his shoulders. They made him walk slowly, and they reached Sri Ramakrishna's place. They had this splitting headache, splitting. In that condition, Narendranath is coming and seeing Sri Ramakrishna. As soon as Sri Ramakrishna saw him, he was immensely joyful, Sri Ramakrishna. And he went near him. What, Naren? He touched his head. All that splitting, unbearable pain vanished instantly. He was stunned. Narendranath was stunned. He could not believe how that such unbearable pain went as if he had no pain at all. How is this? So like that. But Sri Ramakrishna, because the most perfect soul, Narendranath, he wanted to guide him properly, thoroughly, so that, because he is the person who has to spread the message of Vedanta to the whole world. So with the association of the holy, it is possible to control the mind. The impossible becomes possible. That's the beauty of associating with the holy people. Then Brahmaji said to that person, wake up in the morning, wash yourself and choose a firm seat. Command your mind in this way. O my mind, keep still, let no distractions enter. With the strength of the intelligent will, keep the mind under control. Soon it will be concentrated, then no distractions will arise. A man can train horses and elephants and bring them under control. Can't he learn to train his own mind? Another disciple, Swami Sharadamji, they are all jumps. Everyone under the training of Sri Ramakrishna, realized the ultimate reality in the lifetime itself, not after birth, not Videha Mukti, Jivan Mukti. That is most fantastic. Swami Shardanandaji, he said to a disciple, don't give up the spiritual struggle. It is hard to control the mind, but it must be done. See the word? Strong word. It must be done. Don't simply grumble. I can't control. So what? So suffer. Even God cannot help you if you can't control the mind. There is no other way. The more you think of the Lord, the more other thoughts decrease. There must be a continuous flow of one thought, the thought of God, during the period of wakefulness. Then, at the time of meditation or in sleep, unbecoming thoughts will not find any peephole to enter. Conflicting desires arise in the mind. Because of those desires, the mind is constantly lashed into waves. As long as these waves form, the mind is restless. In order to control these waves, which give rise to thoughts of a worldly and distracting nature, one must live a life of self-discipline. You must be joyful to practice discipline. Joyful. The mind has tremendous potentialities. It is a storehouse of infinite energy. Through control and inner check, we can unfold these potentialities and gradually develop the power to work towards God. To control the mind, to focus your attention to your point on God is no doubt an uphill task. It cannot be done in a day. It needs vigilant care and persistent effort until you have fully grasped the truth of the statement. The world is unsubstantial and illusory as a dream. Unless you grasp this idea, the restlessness of the mind is bound to recur. If evil thoughts appear, be indifferent to them. They come due to the impressions of previous lives, and it is good that they rise to the conscious plane. It will be easier for you to control them. The means for bringing the fickle mind under control are dispassion and practice, which Bhagavad Gita says, Viveka Vairagya. Vairagya. Abhyasa. This statement is in the Gita, there is no other way. Another disciple, Swami Vijnanandaji, said, when we have control over our passions, we shall succeed. We shall ourselves then feel that we are advancing towards God. When the mind is completely under control, it will have nothing to exist on except noble thoughts. If you want to control your passions, you have to meditate constantly on Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sharada Devi. And all degrading thoughts will at once cease to trouble you. These are the assurances given by Vijnanandaji. The mind, after all, is yours. And you say it is not under your control. Does that sound reasonable? Why should you allow the mind to rise above you and rule you? There is a saying, although the Guru, Krishna and the Vaishnava all were kind to me, unkindness on the part of one set everything to naught. Unkindness on the part of one set everything to naught. The unkind one was the mind. It ruined everything. So when the mind is overcome with evil thoughts, it becomes dejected and inactive like a mouse in the grip of a cat. But why should you suffer it to be like that? In such situations, you should summon up within you all the strength of a lion and shake off all evil thoughts. It is no excuse to say that your mind is not under your control. Why should you let your mind take the upper hand? God is both inside and outside you. When you realize that He is within you, your passions will be under control. That means you must be consciously thinking of the divine. If you have got mantra of Sri Ramakrishna, you must be constantly thinking of Sri Ramakrishna. Constantly, wherever you are, whatever you are doing. So if the mind is always thinking about Sri Ramakrishna, in course of time, the mind always thinks of Sri Ramakrishna by itself. It becomes automatic. So next point Shri Krishna says is Matparaha. Shri Krishna says, have me as a supreme goal. Me means Shri Krishna, Supreme Lord, the Divine Lord of the universe. Fix me as the supreme goal. So Brahmanji said, make God the be-all and end-all of your life. Practice any spiritual discipline with faith and devotion. In the end, it will lead you to the same goal. God alone is our goal. Take refuge in Him. He is our all in all. You must be ever watchful about the goal. You must never forget the aim of life. You may study or you may do whatever you like, my child, but know it for certain that the ultimate goal of life is to see God. Keep your eyes always turned towards Him. Life is not meant for the pleasure of the body. Realization of God alone is the goal of life. Now that you have attained this rare human birth, don't allow your life to be spent in vain. Realize the nature of the self. If you forget the goal of life, you ruin yourself. Hence, always keep the ideal before eyes and struggle to reach it. You have nothing to fear, for you have held on to the pillar, the Lord. You have goal fixed. Seeing your example, many will try to set their feet on the path. Know God to be your only goal. He will grant you His vision and help you. Swami Trigunatityananda, another direct disciple, said, the mind which is attached to more than one thing can never reach the goal. Learn to see God in everything about you. Smear God over everything, and your mind will think of Him alone. Swami Ramakrishna, he said, what keeps us from seeing God? Our egotism. The more you can minimize that, the nearer you will approach the goal. So the biggest quality that the person has in this world is ego. Too much of ego. Destructive ego. So as long as ego is there, you will not be able to grasp the spiritual glory. And you will not be able to move an inch forward in spiritual path if you are having egotism. In Sanskrit it is called Durahankar. Durahankar. So Shahjahan said, make him the goal of your life. Give your mind to God and none else. There is no necessity of your solving these questions. nor do I have the time. Make japa and meditate daily and remain pure in body, mind and speech. By that alone you will achieve your life's goal. Swami Akhandananda said, renounce everything and take refuge in me. That is God. No Sharanagati is possible without renunciation of everything. With Sharanagati, the goal of spiritual life is reached. Sharanagati means surrender. Total surrender. What you require is hope, faith and patience. And gradually you will reach the goal. So this verse clearly points out how a spiritual aspirant should be qualified for getting liberation. Liberation simply doesn't come. He should be serene, he should be fearless, he should adhere to the vow of celibacy, he should free his mind from running after sensual temptations and fill his mind with thoughts of Atman. Such an aspirant becomes fit to achieve final liberation. If he has fulfilled all this, what Shri Krishna has said, that means you have passed entrance examination. Now you are qualified to get into the state of liberation. In the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna says, it is possible to attain liberation through karma. But in order to achieve this, one must have intense renunciation. All mental, physical and spiritual energies must be concentrated. Then only can you reach God. True liberation calls for complete self-dedication. As a result of good deeds performed in many lives and through the grace of God, one cherishes this desire for liberation. Many don't even think of that liberation. They are just satisfied with the pleasures of the world. And suddenly they collapse and leave the body. Again they are born. Anyone who takes shelter with the Master, meaning Sri Ramakrishna, with all sincerity and his whole being, anyone who loves the Master will inevitably get liberation, says Swami Shivanandaji. Reduce the external paraphernalia and serve people as God with all love and utmost sincerity. This will certainly bring you devotion and liberation. To be liberated means to be desireless. Attachment is bondage. Yet again, attachment opens the door to liberation to one who becomes attached to God. The root cause of all desire is the ego and our identity with physical body. When the ego dies, all troubles cease. Then alone a person attains immortality. Then he is liberated while living. In order to attain wisdom of God and liberation for one's own self, one need only to receive the sacred mantras from illumined Guru and with complete faith become absorbed in the practice of japam and meditation. Swami Premanandaji says, I can assure you that you will attain liberation and peace if you but free yourself from lust and greed. There is no doubt about it. Swami Turiyanji said, plunge headlong into service. Swamiji once told me, Hari Bhai, I have chalked out a new path to God realization. So long people thought that salvation could be had only through prayer, meditation and the like. But now my boys will attain the bliss of liberation in life by mere selfless work. Atma mokshartam jagat hitayach. Engage yourself in selfless activity, honestly, sincerely. Then you will attain the bliss of liberation. Have no doubt. As a bird flies to the sky with its two wings, so we must have the two wings of discrimination and renunciation to climb to the edifice of liberation. If one has real discrimination and renunciation, one is safe. A man runs after water in a mirage only so long as he mistakes the mirage for real water. Once the delusion is broken, nobody goes after a mirage for water. Now another important point, Swami Turiyanji said, animals have no conscience. That means they don't have that moral sense, what is good, what is wrong. They can't have the determining faculty. Hence they have no merit or demerit. They have obviously got intelligence, but there it ends. Only human beings can do fresh work because they have got a conscience. They only have got the idea of bondage, which other creatures have not. The other creatures have not that idea of bondage. Only when there is the idea of bondage can there be any real effort for liberation. Don't you see how a prisoner struggles for release? It's only when there is the idea that the world is a bondage that a person can strive for liberation. His failure to understand this takes him through the endless cycles of births and deaths. When you dive into the Ganges, you don't feel any weight, although there are tons of water overhead. But one feels so burdened when one places a part of water on one's head. Even the spine may give way. You may love all the beings in the world and be not at all under bondage. But the moment you allow your love to be centered on any special object, you are bound. If you can get rid of these loads, then only can you attain peace and liberation. Swami Adbhutanji said, a bumblebee hiding in a fragrant flower offered in the worship touches the feet of the Lord. Similarly, by the grace and association of a holy man, one surpasses even the gods and attains liberation. Master said, Sri Ramakrishna said, ignorance lasts as long as one has ego. There can be no liberation so long as the ego remains. O God, thou art the doer and not I. That is knowledge. By being lowly, one can rise high. The chatak bird makes its nest on low ground, but it soars very high in the sky. Cultivation is not possible on high land. In low land, water accumulates and makes cultivation possible. One must take the trouble to seek the company of holy persons. These are Sri Ramakrishna's words in the Gospel. In his own home, a person hears only worldly talk. The disease of worldliness has become chronic with him. The caged parrot sitting on its perch repeats Rama, Rama, Rama. But let it fly to the forest and it will squawk in its usual way. So these are the various ideas given by Sri Ramakrishna and the disciples. And Sri Krishna has clearly indicated how we should practice spirituality to attain liberation. But most important is, you must have the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal. Then the whole secret stands revealed. You know everything about what is what. There is nothing left to be known. You reach that state by realizing the truth. You have realized everything about it. There's nothing more to be realized. That's the end of spiritual journey, and then in that state the soul experiences immense peace and immense joy. Let us continue next Tuesday. Om Vasudeva Sutam Deva Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Let us offer salutations to Lord Krishna, the embodiment of peace and bliss, who came to establish dharma and punish the wicked. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from darkness to ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.